Hi, I'm Dana, and I used to make quite a lot of videos about fashion and especially like thrifted and slow fashion because I'm not a fast fashion lover. I think it's really bad because it is, both environmentally and for the people that have to work on it. So I wanted to talk about it again today because I haven't spoken about it in a while and it is still something I'm very passionate about. And I want to talk about it today specifically because I recently had a little Primark haul. That's why I'm in these lovely new pyjamas and this lovely robe that reminds me of the breakup robe from Our Flag Means Death. That's why I bought it. But yeah, I buy stuff from Primark now. And that takes us perfectly into our first point because I'm buying stuff from Primark because slow fashion of certain items, of most items in my experience, is hugely inaccessible. I've always had to try and access slow fashion through thrifting, through Depop, through like second-hand purchases, essentially vintage fashion. Sorry, my cat's going a bit mental. But that's how I've had to access slow fashion and non-fast fashion because I don't have a lot of money. I don't have loads of money to drop on stuff. And as soon as you get into things like underwear and pyjamas, where I don't want to wear underwear and pyjamas and socks that have been worn by some random stranger before, you know? I'm not doing it. I'm very sorry. I'm not thrifting underwear or pyjamas. No. So that's where I had to look into other alternatives. And I couldn't find any I could afford. The good fashion that you want to be purchasing is not affordable. I cannot afford to pay £28 for a set of a bra and a pair of underwear. Like that's lasting me one day before I've got to wash it and dry it for the next day, which is then, you know, I'm using the washing machine and dryer when I don't need to be, which isn't good for the environment anyway. Or alternatively, I have to buy multiple sets of that and I don't have £100 to just drop on some underwear. However, I do have £5 to drop in Primark, don't I? That's easy, it's cheap, it's accessible, I can afford it, I can get multiple pairs so that I'm not having to excessively wash things. And, you know, washing things that excessively isn't good for the item anyway, thus pretty much defeating the point of it being slow fashion, because it's going to disintegrate and not last as long anyway. You know, doing slow fashion the way that I do, where it's all second-hand, is great in so many ways. I've gotten so many unique items and it meant that like for a solid like 2 years or something, I don't think I actually bought a single new item. I definitely didn't buy anything from Primark. But there's limited options to both what you're going to find anyway, you know, like I really wanted a Our Flag Means Death robe. I'm not going to find that in a charity shop most likely, and if I did, I'd be looking for years, which I have done before. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you know, I wanted it. And then when you get to the clothes that you need, like socks and underwear and pyjamas, there's limited options. There's very, very limited options. You might not be able to get it at all. And when you turn to the other routes of slow fashion, it's just inaccessible for most people because they are expensive. You know, I can go to Primark and get a set of 4 different pairs of underwear for like £3 versus having to spend like £18 on one pair of eco-friendly, slow fashion, handmade underwear. Like, I understand why it's important to do that when you can, but I can't. And I think that there's such a pressure to do so. I don't know if that's because I've like put myself into this influencer seat that I never really wanted. So I feel more pressure to do the right thing, to be a role model, to show people that it is okay to do this and you can do this. And it's like, but I can't do that. All right, we've probably taken the bag away too. Taking that. You know, like obviously not everyone's feeling pressured to shop slow fashion because otherwise fast fashion would be dying off. They wouldn't be able to continue doing it. But for those of us that are more aware, I suppose, and those of us who do take a focus and a passion for it, it feels like a lot of pressure. And I feel, you know, I felt really guilty. That's part of why I'm making this video, is because I felt really guilty that I'd bought something from Primark because, you know, like some poor fucking kid's probably been sat in a room for like 16 hours a day to make that and they're not getting paid properly, and it makes me uncomfortable, and I don't think anyone should be working or living in those conditions. But that blame and that responsibility and that guilt it should not be on us as shoppers, you know, it should not be on the standard person, it should be on the people that are actually creating those situations and directly paying towards those situations being created, you know? I don't think that it should be on me as an average consumer of the public in a capitalist society to feel guilty for having paid £5 towards a massive capitalist venture that's putting people in that situation. My £5 or my 20 quid here and my 30 quid there doesn't make any difference. You know, we're never going to get to a point where people have stopped shopping fast fashion just overnight. It's not going to ever be like everyone stopped doing it now and everything's got to close. So if that's not going to happen anyway, contributing a tiny little amount of your wage that you've earned, a tiny bit of money to cheer yourself up, to buy yourself something nice, really makes no difference whatsoever. And yet I feel like, especially online, we're putting so much pressure and guilt onto each other for shopping fast fashion. Yeah, I think there's a place for it, you know, like I don't think we need to be seeing any of these like £800 Shein hauls. You don't need to spend £800 at Shein all in one go. It's just ridiculous. You know, huge hauls. You're not going to wear most of the clothes anyway. It's just unnecessary. But for the most part, when it's just a normal person like you or myself that's spending a little bit of money here to treat ourselves, it makes no difference. There should not be any guilt from that. If I could make them stop treating people badly and put them in nice working conditions where they're working reasonable hours and being paid a fair wage for it, I would. But me not buying myself something isn't going to do that, you know, it's not going to make that happen. But one thing that I do to try and sort of offset that, I guess, anyway, is that I try and treat it like it is slow fashion, you know? We all know that Primark goods, and honestly stuff from most other really cheap fast fashion places, it don't last very long. You know, I don't know if this is just a me issue, but with Primark, pyjamas always get a hole in the crotch. It always happens after like a couple of wears, there's a hole in the crotch. And I feel like a lot of the time people just get rid of it. There's a hole in it, get rid. Sew it up, you know? Like, oh, there's a hole in the leg, patch it, you know? Fair enough, we live in this consumer society where everything's meant to be fast and fast and fast, but if you're going to have to buy fast fashion anyway, when I'm gonna have to buy fast fashion anyway, I'd rather be buying pieces that I know I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of. Like, I can fully imagine myself wearing this as a dress or just a general jacket as well as a robe, and I'm very happy with it. Buying things that you know you're continuing going to wear, things that aren't gonna be like a things that aren't going to be a one-time outing before they're just shoved into the back of your wardrobe or put into the charity shop or put in the bin, and prolonging the life of them as much as you can. You know, washing them according to instructions, drying it, air drying instead of tumble drying, just little things to prolong the clothes so that you don't have to go back and give them money as soon. You know, like, the fast fashion industry wasn't created overnight, and we're not going to be able to shut it down overnight either, and we're sure as hell not going to be able to shut it down as, like, individuals just be like, oh, well, I don't shop from Primark. And, you know, I think as well, I've obviously spoken to a lot of other people online and a few in real life that are against fast fashion, and they definitely had a lot of judgment and hatred, really, for people that continue shopping fast fashion. And at the time, I was totally with them. I totally understood it. That's what I mean by evolving my opinions and the like. I think, you know, we've got to admit when we were wrong. And I was definitely wrong to be judging people and thinking that I was, like, better than other people for not shopping fast fashion. It's an inevitable evil for most of us, I think. You know, slow fashion is expensive. There are limited options of what you can actually get. There's, you know, a lot of stuff that I've seen that's slow fashion I don't like. I don't like the style, the colours. I don't like the items. There's a million other things that go into it. There's so much stuff that goes into it. And it's just basically, at this point, I think, impossible to make sure everything you're buying, if you have a normal budget, is eco-friendly and that it's been made by people in fair conditions and being paid fairly. It's just not something that's possible for me, and I think most people, you know, I'd love to be in the financial situation where I can take like 3 days off to just be like, I'm gonna focus on finding things that are like eco-friendly fabrics, items that I really like, made in really good places, made by people who are being paid fairly and being worked fair hours, and I'm just gonna, like, price is no object, I'm just gonna buy whatever I want. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? I'd really enjoy that, but that's not the world that I'm living in. That's not my situation. I can't afford slow fashion. The best I can do is thrifting, a bit of Etsy, a bit of Depop, a bit of Vinted, you know, try and go second hand, try and reuse things. But if I need something new, like me undies, or if I'm a bit grossed out by wearing something a stranger's worn, like my pyjamas, it's got to be fast fashion. You know, and I think it's comparative to, like, I'm a vegan and I'd feel really bad and guilty if I ate a burger, because I don't need to eat a burger. But, you know, lots of people have been up like, oh, well, what if you were, like, trapped on a desert island and you had to eat, I'd eat the animal, I'd kill the hog or the bunny, or, like, I mean, I wouldn't, let's face it, I don't have fucking hunting skills, I wouldn't have a clue what to do. But if I was able to kill the bunny, you bet your ass I'd eat the bunny on a fucking desert island. I think that people living in far-ass reaches of the world that are living off animals through the winter deserve to carry on doing that, because you're using the animal you need to eat. There's necessities that have to be made allowances for. It's just how the world works. There's some things that have to happen. And I'm trying to more so see this as that, kind of, like, a lot less dramatic, obviously. But it's a case of, like, I need underwear. I can't afford that one. I'm gonna have to go with the stuff that I can afford. And, you know, we've got very quickly at the end here, all over, oh, I shouldn't have scrunched that bag up, but they're splashing the phrase everywhere, Primark cares. And as far as I can tell, I'm no expert on this, I just do my own bits of research because I'm interested, but as far as I can tell, it's literally just, right, so we have kids in horrible conditions making our clothes, so they're understandably not the highest quality and they're probably gonna, you know, break and be unwearable pretty soon. But we've made it out of like more sustainable fabrics, so the creation of them has had less of a climate impact, and the general breakdown and biodegradableness has been improved, so they won't have as much lasting damage on the planet when you inevitably have to bin them after 2 wears. So I don't think Primark really does care. I said this was going to be quick, but I think it's especially shitty because obviously I've done a lot of research into this. I've read up on this and Googled a lot about it. And at one point I was writing articles about this stuff. So I am like more knowledgeable than the average person on it. And therefore I think it's actually really shitty and manipulative and misleading to be putting the branding of like Primark cares. Because for the average person that doesn't know all of this shit, you know, that's just read the odd news article of like Primark has bad conditions for workers, Primark's like this. For the people that just have like the standard knowledge of it, oh, Primark cares, they're doing something good, I can shop at Primark absolutely guilt-free and not need to look into it now. You know, they're really being smart and manipulating people away from looking into the actual issue, and that's pretty gross. And I'm sure H&M's been doing a very similar thing. Like, this is very focused on Primark, 'cause that's sort of the big thing, as far as I'm aware. But it does very much apply to all fast fashion brands. And especially the ones like H&M and Primark that are putting out that they care and they're more sustainable and they're green and they're eco and whatever else. Because, like, I'm glad you're doing your bit for the planet, but I also don't think that, like, people should be working in disgusting conditions while barely getting paid anything to make my clothes. You know? And if I'm paying, like, this top and short set was £7, if I'm paying that little for a whole set of clothes, like, when you've put in them getting shipped to the UK, because these are made in, like, Bangladesh or somewhere, they've been shipped to the UK, there's the pay for the fabric, there's the pay for the thread, there's the pay for the little lace embellishments and the little ribbon and the bow and the labels. The people making the clothes, like, where's the money for them to be paid? There's really not a lot there, is there? See, that's what I mean, it gets me very uncomfortable, but also, like, I shouldn't need to be uncomfortable, and these conditions shouldn't be happening anyway. So yeah, I feel like my fast fashion videos are usually like a call to arms and a call to, like, let's stop buying fast fashion, guys, let's do this instead. And this is a bit of a different one, but, like, sometimes you gotta buy fast fashion. And similarly with, like, music gatekeeping, I'm kind of over just being shitty for people. I'm kind of really over judging people and gatekeeping shit. Like, I'm not sure if this is really gatekeeping, my brain's starting to go, but I just, sometimes we ain't got the cash, sometimes we don't want to wait, sometimes you see something you really like, sometimes shit just happens, sometimes life's the way it is, and we shouldn't have to feel bad for situations that we can't actually help and that we didn't cause. You know, we should be kicking up a stink. It's good to talk about it. I think it's an important discussion to have so that more people are aware. And I think the more people that are aware and angry about it, whether they stop shopping at these places or not, the more of an effect it's going to have. So, yeah, finally that's me done. I've said all I'm going to say. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be really cool if you wanted to like it. I make videos twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays at 4:30 p.m. usually about autism at this point, but I am trying to spread out my content and sort of show a bit more of myself as a complex and nuanced individual. But I'm gonna go now. So whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, day, week, month, year, and I'll see you again in a couple of days.